you mentioned, guys getting bitter, going through divorce, like, and I see a lot of that in not in our community necessarily, but in men's group, but in other communities that men flock to when they go through separations or divorces, kind of like red pill, MGTOW, which stands for men going their own way. These are groups of men that just seem really bitter and angry and upset and just are basically write off women. Is there anything you can recommend that can help guys from stopping getting super bitter throughout the process?
Getting a divorce coach or engaging in counseling. I mean, listen, like divorce, it's like death. And it's you go through the stages of grief. You are grieving for the end of your marriage, and bitterness is one of those stages. But as you mentioned, Sean, and I have certainly seen in my kind of professional life, guys tend to get stuck in that bitterness phase. And so processing it, and there's nothing wrong with being bitter. It's just a matter of you can't just wallow in your self-pity and your bitterness. I mean, a lot of guys will say, well, I made the money and, she gets half the money, or she gets all this money and she doesn't have to work. And that really kind of misses the point. Their marriage is hard. And when you go through a divorce, a lot of people, more people than not, at the end, they'll say, I'm much happier now. I'm a much better dad. I'm a much better friend. I'm a much better person. And, the person that I referenced earlier, my guy that was, climbing Mount Everest, he is a dramatically different person. I just saw him a couple weeks ago. He flew in, we went skiing, and, he quit drinking, and it's been much better for him. He is in a good place. And it took that flashpoint, that experience of divorce, which was unbelievably painful, for him to really change and become a better person. And so I think looking at this as an opportunity instead of what you're losing or what you're missing, really looking at as an opportunity to kind of develop into a new and better person, because that's how you kind of have to see it in order to kind of dig yourself out of that bitterness phase.
So it sounds like to dig yourself out of the business phase, the next step would be taking responsibility for like your side of it, so that you can then learn how to be a better person, right?
Yeah, and taking responsibility for your side, there's going to be some blame, but really, if there's an affair, there's a reason in part. It takes two to tango, and there is responsibility all the way around. And ignoring your role in that, it could be just that it's time to move on. And there's nothing wrong with that. People grow apart, and it doesn't mean that you are, a horrible person. And I think if you look at it as a failure, that is certainly the path that is going to lead you to some bitterness, instead of saying, listen, like, this is just a phase of life, and we went our own separate ways, and now we've got to kind of go through this process. But you're absolutely right, Sean.
Yeah, and one more like polarizing question on this that I'm just asking on the fly here, and you can feel free to opt out of it. But a lot of the guys that stay in that bitter phase, they play the blame game. They say women are all whatever. Women are all just using you for money. Women are all whatever. And I think it'd be interesting to get your perspective, since you're on the inside of this, dealing with a lot of men who've been hurt. Like, do you feel that's true? The women are what guys say that branch swingers are using men for money, or these things that the red pill communities and MGTOW communities really stand by.
I think that is a recipe for a life of just, unhappiness. And, we all have accountability. And I think if you make these generalizations, are there women who are gold diggers? I mean, dude, I'm in Aspen, Colorado. So like, absolutely. There
Totally.
are young women who are absolutely out for nothing but dollars and cents. I see it every day. But does that mean that all women are like that? No. And I think it really is.
I know guys like that too. Yeah.
and like, I have clients who are the super turbo, loaded guys, and like, yeah, they pay for their women, and that it's an economic, model for them. But to see all women as evil is not a way to have a productive, successful life. And I think you got to look at yourself and, your priorities. Does that mean that everyone needs to go and find, a second wife or a third wife? No, it doesn't. Marriage might not be your thing, man. And, but you can, have sustainable relationships, and, it's really kind of a matter of priorities. And but I think that is, just a fool's path to take. Just my, that's at least from my perspective.